All right. All right. Welcome to the show, guys. Thank you for tuning in to Stumblin Forward. I am here with my co-host, Monica Ortega.
Hey, guys.
And I'm Kristen Herman. Today, we are actually talking to Molly Franklin. Now, Molly is a Chicago-based artist who is living her best life because, well, how else are you supposed to live? She has had personal essays published in online magazines such as IAMFEMINISM and Hooligan Magazine, and who regularly performs live literature with Tenx9 and Loose Chicks. After watching her first screenplay come to life at a local showcase, Molly is currently working on her first feature and rediscovering who she is as an artist. Thank you so much for joining us, Molly. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
For sure. So let's just start with who you are and tell us where you're from and what your goals.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, which is the second largest city in Iowa. I just want to point it out there, but it still means that I'm 15 minutes from a cornfield, no matter which direction you drive in. So now I live in Chicago, which is very far from the nearest cornfield, which is actually kind of nice.
The complete opposite. That's awesome.
Right. Yeah. So one of the things that talking about goals here is I originally went to college for fiction writing, where I thought that I was going to write deep, dark, depressing short stories for the rest of my life. And I ended up where a good friend of mine was like, hey, I know you write. Would you be willing to write me a screenplay? And I said, I've never done it before, but hey, let me give it a try and see what happens. And what I realized is I absolutely love it. I love being able to listen to people talk. And that's honestly all that screenplays really are. I know that it's a visual media and you have to think of how people are going to be portrayed and the behaviors. But for me, it was really being able to have these people just talk to me, which is different than what I was doing in fiction.
That's awesome. So what screenplay did you write? Or can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so the first screenplay that I wrote for my friend is called Heirloom. It was with Talus Productions, which is a local Chicago-based production company, brand spanking new. So make sure to look them up if you get a chance. But what I was doing is Heirloom is all about this woman who finds out that she has a generational disease and more news, which will change her family forever.
Oh, interesting. Sounds good. So I saw that you actually went to, oh my gosh, I was going to say, Columbia in Chicago, right? I almost went there. I went to Roosevelt University, right down the street.
Yeah, no kidding. We almost would have shared a dorm.
Those dorms were nice there. Holy cow, they were like apartments.
Yeah,
sorry.
Well,
it's a total side note. I just saw that in her bio and I got really excited.
So what was your main major in Columbia then?
Yeah, so my main major was I originally went for fiction writing and acting. Okay. But I ended up where I was sitting in the creative writing room and I was like, oh no, this is what I need to do, because also I was sitting in on an audition and realized I don't ever want to do this again. So acting was obviously not going to be for me.
Was it more theatrical, or were you going for acting in film and you just never?
Yeah, it wasn't in film. I'm really exaggerated. So I work really well on a stage, but it looks like overacting when I'm on screen.
Got it. Okay.
So then you transitioned into screenwriting. What would you say, what kind of mistakes have you made in that transition, and what helped you kind of discover it? I mean, I know you said performing and listening to people and stuff like that, but I would love to hear some more.
Yeah, so for screenwriting, what I really was nervous about was that I didn't know the rules. I went to school for creative writing, for fiction, and I was so afraid that I was going to do it wrong that I never did it, because I have all of my friends are in film. All of my best friends are in film. And they had been on me for a while. And they're like, why don't you try writing a script? And it's like, oh no, I'm not going to be good at it. I don't know how it works. I don't know the format, which completely overwhelmed and freaked me out. But once I got software, which it was like a Screenwriter Pro, old school, screenwriting software that my friend set me up with, he gave me a 15-minute tutorial and he's like, just write. He's like, you don't have to worry about any of the main themes. He's like, just let yourself tell a story. And it's like, that's no different. No matter the medium that we're choosing, as a writer, I've been lucky enough to work in live literature, which if you don't know what that is, it's basically telling personal essays on a stage. So it's just telling stories, true stories about your life in front of an audience. So that's been one of the forms that I really love. I've done personal essays that have been published, but screenwriting by far is the one that captured my heart. And some of the mistakes I would just have to say is, don't box yourself into your medium just because you don't know what you're doing. Nobody knows what they're doing. Like, welcome to adulthood. Nobody knows. So, and I think this translates really well into developing yourself as an artist and finding your artistic voice. And it's really just play.
And I think the best thing about that is just like you just said, just do it and see how you feel about it. So it doesn't really have to be like, I mean, narrative and short story and poetry. And it's all about feeling, I think, with writing most of the time, and about what you know as well. And so like just being able to do it, that's awesome that you can just like get it out. You know? Right.
And it's like my first screenplay, the reason why it was as successful as it was because it was based on my life. It was based, the generational disease, I'm going to spoil just a little, it's cancer. But my mom went through breast cancer 3 times. She started, her first time was when I was 5. I don't remember that at all. Her second time was when I was 19. And her third time was when I was 24. So I watched her, and I was able to take that and fictionalize it. And basically how it worked is I'd written live lit about my experiences for years. But what made it successful as a screenplay was being able to take my deepest fears, like that feeling that you were talking about, Kristen, and how writing, you just need to put it into a story. Nobody can tell you the right way to tell a story. And that's one of the big things I've played with, is you can decide first person, second person, but screenplays are the ones where you are watching overhead and you're a little disconnected, but you know exactly how you want your audience to feel.
I love that you went into it like that. I actually got to see Heirloom because I'm special. No, I actually got to see Heirloom, and it was one of my favorite screenplays, like shorts that I saw during the showcase. And it really did just encompass you in feeling, and you just felt for the characters and the scene. So, I mean, I was lucky enough to be able to see it, but yeah.
I feel like there's so much power in using your story too, in whatever medium. And like you said, it doesn't really matter which one you're doing, but to use your own journey and stuff. I mean, first of all, that's super brave. And then obviously people can relate to it. So good on you.
Yeah. So when was the epiphany of like transitioning? So you were writing Heirloom, and then while you were writing, you were just like, man, I just really love how this is coming out? Or was it after it was made, like after the creation of it?
No, it was after probably the 3rd draft, when I got it to a point where I was like, this is actually good.
Nice.
And then I was on a roll. My friends in college used to make fun of me all the time because we had a 60-page minimum that you have to write for each creative writing class. Wow. However, in my freshman year, I wrote well over 200 in 2 semesters. And so words come to me pretty easily. I know that you can't always tell when I'm speaking, but when I'm writing, it's very simple. And so after I was writing Heirloom, I actually wrote 3 more screenplays in 2 months for shorts.
Wow. That's awesome.
That's crazy.
So what are some of the mistakes that you feel like you've made, like that you would tell someone else, like make sure that, like something, because I know that you were talking about how, you were using other people, like you wanted to reach out to other people. Anything else that you feel like?
Right. And so that's one of the things I really want to talk about is when I started out as a fiction writer, you think you're very alone. When you're writing fiction or anything that's personal essay, you're very stuck in place. And I think that was one of the big mistakes that I made even as I was transitioning, is thinking that I was in this alone. Luckily in Chicago, it's a huge artist network. I mean, the community is giant, and it's all people who really support each other, which is incredibly, it's amazing, really. And so when I started writing my feature, which we can talk about for sure, I made sure that I brought in 2 of my best friends who are directors and screenwriters. And I said, hey, I want to do this project. It's huge. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it, but would you mind helping me along in creating the story and making sure that we can turn this into where I like everything done with words, and that's not always how people actually communicate. So that was one of the big things that I had to work on with a screenplay. Is there's a lot of nuances, there's a lot of gestures, you have to really think about that when you're in screenwriting.
Yeah.
I didn't really think about that part of it. That's cool.
Yeah, so that was one of the big differences, and I just want you to know you're not alone. If you go out into the community, like if you're in Chicago, if you're in some place like California, where there's just thriving culture for art, go out and do something. Go to showcases, go to readings, go to all these things, because that's how you're going to make the connections that at some point you can go up to them and say, hey, I like your work. You can be like, hey, I want to work with you. Is there any way I can get your contact information? This is how you're going to find the most beneficial and rewarding relationships, business relationships, and ultimately friendships. All start with just the briefest of conversations.
Yeah, and it kind of piggybacks on what you were saying too, of not being afraid, because I feel like that's something I always felt was that I wasn't good enough to hang out with those kinds of people. Like my biggest regret in Nashville is that I didn't co-write with people, because I thought, well, if my songs aren't great, well, they would have been better had I just let somebody hear it and have some input. Mm-hmm. But I think we hold ourselves back because we're so afraid of what other people are going to think, or that we're not good enough. But like you said, making that community is just going to make you better and get you some friends and connections.
Course, there's going to be assholes out there, but it's like, there are going to be people who you really are going to be like, oh, this was a mistake. That's the thing. It's like, you're going to meet those people along the way, but you're also going to meet the people who will be with you for the rest of your career. And it's like, I know that the gentlemen who are helping me with my feature, I've known for 7 years now, and I've watched their careers, and I can't wait to see where they're going to progress, and they honestly support me in the exact same way.
And it's about taking that leap and like getting and doing anything. Like, again, when it comes to either writing, which a lot of people like, just circling back, a lot of people think that if they're writing, then they are honestly have to do it alone. Like it has to be just by, just me, and they don't want to like talk to other people. And then they're like, well, how am I going to actually speak my writing out and do it like live, or, and maybe they don't think like, maybe they can ask someone else to do it live. Like they don't have to read it. Maybe they can like ask a friend who's an actor or an actress to read it instead. I think like a fear is always.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to ask about this live literature thing, because I haven't heard of that before. So I'd love to learn more about that.
Yeah, so luckily the companies that I work for, I perform with, is going to be 10 by 9, which is 10 writers, or it's 9 writers who are given 10 minutes to do a monologue, basically, about their lives. And it has to be true. It has to be from you. It can be funny. It can be emotional. I mean, I think that if you are actually successful in a monologue, you have to have both. You have to be able to draw in your audience with that laughter, but also have it, it's like, oh, I feel this. So Live Lit, I got into because I took a class at Columbia, which is called Story and Performance. And I was like, okay, all right, I want to be an actress, so why not take a place where I write and I act? And what it really taught me, though, was to be unafraid. To walk onto stage and be vulnerable, which what we're talking about with fear is, it's such a barrier, and it can be also really hard to let yourself open up and be emotional, or to look in and really be able to analyze what's going on, what am I feeling, and why.
And even with like that acting didn't work out, or that you kind of figured that like you don't want to pursue that professionally, it helped you so much in your journey. You know, those, I don't even, maybe that's what I'm kind of like feeling or hearing from you. It's like coming out and doing acting classes, that you have to be vulnerable, you know, you have to be able to express your emotions with words. So that's, I mean, that's just a part of the journey, even if it didn't happen, but it's like, that's great.
Right. Well, I mean, I loved my acting classes. I actually had a teacher who, it was funny, my first semester at Columbia when I was double majoring, I sat down for my conference because Columbia has this thing where they're like, okay, we're going to have a midway conference. And if we're going to tell you or suggest that you change your major with a counselor. I was horrified when I heard it. It's like, what if I'm not good enough? What if this is not going to be for me? This is what I've always wanted to do. And what if I have a teacher who's actually listened to my writing for, 8 weeks and goes, you're not going to make it. And so it's a suggest that you can continue, but it's a suggest. And I had a teacher in my creative writing who was like, you're a writer. And then I had an acting teacher who was like, you're an actress. And so I had to decide and take that personal step back and go, what do I see myself doing every day and feeling fulfilled? And for me, it wasn't being on stage and rehearsing.
I love that journey. Okay, so where do you see yourself in 5 years then, between the screenwriting and the live lit and
oh, good Lord, Monica. Okay.
It's so hard, I know.
I know. I always joke with my mom, who's a social worker, and I've never been able to make long-term goals. She's like, oh, it's a trauma response from everything you've had to deal with in your like young adulthood and to like childhood. And I'm like, oh, well, that's probably true. But there's also a part of me that's very instinctual. And I basically will go with my gut on any decision. Logically, I would love to do it. Luckily, I have a boyfriend who's very mathematical and logical. So we even each other out a little bit. But being able to take each decision as it goes has really set me up for heartache. But it's going to go ahead and make sure that I live in passion. But, hopefully in 5 years, all right, if I'm really looking at it, I would like to have sold my first it can be a short or my feature, just actually sell it, make some money would be nice. And then be well on my way at my second feature, which actually now I'm working on currently. So awesome. Because I was on draft 7 of my feature film, and I was frustrated with it. And I was like, you know what? I need to talk to some new characters and just see a new story for a little bit. And it started as a short film. And I was like, no. This deserves a longer screen time.
I love that you said that not having plans has allowed you to make decisions from your gut, because like initially when I read that in your information or whatever, I was like, that gives me anxiety because I'm such a planner. But the flip side of that is it comes with not being able to make decisions and feeling anxiety because what if it doesn't go like this plan? So I super, super envy the fact that you're like, yeah, just go with my gut. That's what everybody should do. Why is that so difficult?
I mean, it's that fear. It's being afraid of failure. It's being afraid of not being good enough. It's being afraid of how people are going to view you if you fail. I mean, there are all these parts that just hold you back. And for me, which I never know what direction I'm going, but what I'm able to do is really sit down and go, this feels good.
That's so important to take that step back too. I think that's the step that most people miss. And then
to go with your feeling for sure. Like, I mean, being able to trust it.
You should plan. All right. I'm not going to say that my decisions have led to the best things for me by being completely going with the gut. But what I want and what I would love for other artists to see is that you know better than anyone else how to tell a story, but you also know yourself better than anyone else. So
that's great advice.
You have to be able to step back and go, what's going to be best for me? I always describe, I'm in my 20s, 20s as being my very, very selfish years, where it's like, I'm not focusing on anybody else. I'm going to chase my dreams. I'm going to see what happens. I have a boyfriend who luckily just kind of is thrown into the mix and is okay with it. So.
That's awesome. So where can we find you? Like, are you on social media? Do you have anything or anything written that we can read?
Right. So the essays have been, I think the magazines have probably closed. It's been a couple of years. But I'm available on Facebook, where you just have to go to Molly It's Molly Franklin. It's my artist page. You'll find a little bit of everything. I have done acting. I have done live literature. I have done slam poetry. I'm writing a book. I have a feature film, and I do photography. So that's why my page on Facebook is just kind of this conglomeration of just things that I'm passionate about.
That's awesome. Well, we'll include the link for that as well. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with everybody?
Yeah. So one of the things that I really want to talk about, and goes back to that fear basis, is there's this quote that's been my favorite and has stuck with me since I heard it. And it was Robert De Niro, actually. And I never thought I would be so inspired by Robert De Niro. But he actually did a commencement speech for the New York University Tisch School of the Arts. And he said, artists, 1, you're fucked. Because 2, all right, you didn't have a choice, did you? You discovered a talent, recognized your ambition, and developed a passion. And that's the passion that drives us. And I think for many artists, this wasn't a choice. We could make the choice not to pursue it. I think that it has to be a very concrete, settle choice. But for a lot of artists, this is just who we are. And I think that you just need to embrace it.
That's so beautiful. Yeah, I had a professor in college tell me, if there's anything else you can do, anything at all, do it. But if you can't do anything else, then you're an artist. And I was like, oh, that's a good way to put it.
Right. Yeah. I honestly, it has always caught me you didn't have a choice, did you?
I love
That's
that.
the thing. Yeah. Just recognizing it. And I feel like this whole thing is just about no fear, just going with it, going with your feeling and understanding this.
Oh no.
Kristen is frozen. So we're going to have to wait and edit this part when she comes back.
I think we're frozen.
Are you back? You
oh
were.
My gosh. I was like, you guys are not talking. We had a nice little internet connection failure there.
Oh, good. Like, we'll just edit that little.
Was I moving at all?
No, you were frozen. Her and I were like, we're just going to wait. We'll just wait. I'm gonna leave this in the video part because it's hilarious.
Oh yeah.
So we get your freeze frame. That'll be the thumbnail for the YouTube.
Was it good, or was it like?
Just like that.
It was very bad. It was very excited. I loved it.
Awesome.
Oh my gosh.
That's my freeze frame.
Thank you so much, Molly. This was really great. And we're going to include all of her information. And for you guys, be sure to head over to iTunes, Spotify, give us a review, give us 5 stars, all of that good stuff so we can keep bringing you inspirational interviews like this one. So thank you again, Molly. This was so great. And if you want to see the video, it'll be up on YouTube. So
yay.
We're your hosts. I'm Monica Ortega.
And I'm Kristen Herman.
And we will see you next time. Bye.
See ya.